how to save the world and the United States in this current epidemic situation. Every public must shoulder their responsibilities and missions and do their best to do every useful thing. Since the outbreak in Wuhan back to January, the United States government has stopped many flight routes and has also banned the entry and exit of any foreigners. However, for the public already in the country, some of them have been diagnosed, and some are asymptomatic, infected, distributed everywhere, and whereabouts missing. So how should we deal with this situation without any helping of vaccines? According to the government's suggestion, some large and dense places have already taken corresponding measures. Schools already closed. Broadways has been closed. All Apple stores are closed. Major cruise ships lines in the United States are banned for 3 months, and so on. So how should we, as the general public, cooperate with the government to fight this virus? In response to the above two issues, as an ordinary person living in this land, I think I should do something to help. I have paid close attention to every country through these 2 months, and I have summarized 3 important points. First of all, self-isolation. In cities with relatively high population density, such as Manhattan, the public should consciously voluntarily reduce the number of going out as much as possible. Cancel unnecessary gatherings and switch to online chat. Leaving space for those who have to go out to work, such as police, doctors, nurses, or logistic delivery staff, and so on. Since the schools are closed, the children of staff members can ask neighbors who are able to stay at home to help with the care. It must be cared by one, and no public gatherings. Better good neighbors near than relations far away. We need more volunteers. The importance of self-isolation. According to the operation in China, during the outbreak at the end of January, the Chinese government not just closed Wuhan city on January 23rd at the first hand, but also at the same time, people from other major provinces and cities also stayed their homes in accordance with instructions. Many people have attacked the Chinese government because they do not understand China's national conditions. The Chinese public is still in the infant stage and requires the protection of their motherland parents. In this democratic country, United States, the government will not forcibly order the public. Therefore, no matter whether you are sick or not, for your own safety, the public should consciously stay at home, which will effectively block the way of virus transmission. The virus is transmitted from person to another. Isolating the dialyzed patients is a way to lock the virus from transmission, and isolating healthy people is to protect them from the virus. As long as we adhere to a principle, don't meet and don't give the chance to the virus transmission, we will not lose our health or even our lives. So far, there have only been few minimal new cases in other cities in China. We must realize the importance of this and learn from it. Let's look at the operation in Italy now. I have to say that the Italian government's decision of this coronavirus case was very decisive. A ban was issued in early February to halt direct flights and prohibit any opening of cafes, bars, and other places after 6 p.m. in order to avoid gathering groups of people. But what's poor is that the Italian people don't take it seriously. They think the government's actions are alarmist. They also protest about the ban and demand a return of freedom. This coronavirus has a symptomatic infection during the incubation period, and most of the females are confident that they are healthy, will not infect others, and no one wears a mask. The consequence is that today's infection and death data has increased dramatically. All I can see is that the Italian public is also underage and requires a compulsory parental protection. I just wanted to ask, is temporary social networking and entertainment more important than life and health? Of course, the doctrine of going out may affect many people's business. But when you think through it, compared to infected by the virus, no surviving members of family. If you just lose business, it's not a big deal. There will always a chance to make a comeback. As the old saying goes, where there is life, there is hope. Based on the above analysis, it is concluded that weighing the pros and cons, self-isolation, whichever one is more important, everyone knows it. Second, the mask problem. Speaking of this mask, I think it is necessary to tell everyone my point of view. Change your perspective and wear a mask. Western culture has always been a habit of not wearing a mask, and I understand it. Even Asians, they would be unconsciously scared when they see a person wearing a mask when they were young, including myself. What made the Chinese accept masks? Imagine, do you wear a condom during sex? The answer is yes. So are you sick? The answer is no. So why do you wear a condom? This is very obvious. In ancient time of period, it was the same reason to wear armor to protect your body when fighting. But if you wearing armor after injury, it won't help. Society is developing. Mankind is moving forward. So it's time for everyone to change their perspective. If you have to communicate in person with one another, according to this coronavirus situation, the Chinese experience shows that wearing masks can definitely indeed greatly reduce the risk of infection. Wearing a mask can prevent the virus from falling the surface of virus objects, which can save the work of cleaners and prevent reinfection. Straight to these days, we see on the internet, there are still majority of people waiting for the flight in the waiting area and don't wear masks. We, the Chinese people, are shocked. It's just the breeding ground of the virus. A lot of people still views only sick people need to wear masks. But at present, there is no way to know who is sick and who is healthy. How can you guarantee that you have not been in contact with any incubation period people? Maybe they're asymptomatic. That's why Chinese government requires everyone to wear a mask in order to reduce the probability of the virus spreading in the air. Of course, it is very important to wash your hands, which is the basic requirements. Self-made masks potential to reduce society demands. Significantly, this is a recurring issue in a health event like this. Now, masks are lacking and prices are rising. Not everyone can obtain a mask to wear. But here's the thing, I want to tell you. When we were still living in a primitive society, when our industry was underdeveloped, what did we rely on? By our own hands. We, the people, have the potential to create simple masks at home. Imagine that each of us produce a mask at home, which can be complete in a few minutes. It is time-saving and effortless. And we can leave masks as medical supplies to frontline medical staff and confirmed patients who really needs it, thus prioritizing the health demand happening right now. A contribution that not only prevents infection spreading, but also supports those who are in need. Many people may say that self-made masks are not resistant to viruses. The point I want everyone to understand is that we are not currently surrounded by viruses, and we do not need an indestructible N95 mask to protect us. Our primary concern is to prevent or restrict, and all we do is to minimize the spread of the virus. Those who are healthy can become a defense factor in this event to prevent the virus from spreading. Please consider this carefully. During the time without condoms, didn't our predecessor also try to use animal casings for contraception? This is a good analogy. Teaching healthy Americans the necessary methods to create tools that can potentially stop the spread of the virus is a solution that can also reduce the high demand of masks in the future if infection keep rising. Any kind of mask protection is better than streaking. How to make a mask? We can use 2 layers of fabric with a layer of plastic wrap in the middle. I believe everyone has plastic wraps at home. Then use 2 straps sewing on both sides. Then a mask is formed. If it's necessary, I will provide a video that correctly instructs people how to make masks. I'm more welcome for everyone to comment below. Wearing a mask is for those who have to work in public places where has to communicate in person with others. It can effectively prevent the virus from transmitting through droplets. And it can be washed and reused. Even if people with mysophobia, they can use it once and just throw it away. It can serve as a one-time purpose tool that can be recycled and sanitized again for future usage. Assisting the government is a responsibility of every resident. We urge everyone to perform works and tasks at home as much as possible. People who have to go out should also wear masks to maintain a 1 meter distance between people, which can greatly reduce the risk of infection. In the aspects of disease and life, no business is worth it. All we need for basic living are just food. As long as the food supply chain has not broken, business, everyday social communication, and work can temporarily be conducted through online platforms. Last, the general recommendations for suspected infected patients. Since there is no vaccine and no effective antidote target at this time, if you think you have accidentally infected by coronavirus, then don't panic and don't rush to the hospital for testing. This will only increase the infection of others' risks. For the sake of the bigger picture, we should quarantine ourselves at home for a week, take a good rest, replenish nutrition, and adjust the body as the case may be. If your condition deteriorates, then call the hospital for treatment. After all, the point we need to understand is that even the most advanced hospitals cannot give you effective treatment, and even the most sophisticated doctors cannot guarantee that they can save your health or your lives. Hospitals and doctors are just helping you to fight the virus, and they can't completely eliminate it. At present, it depends on the strength of individuals' immune system. Imagine if everyone went to the hospital. It would only potentially cause chaos and problems to the health system, consume more medical care resources, and increase the risk of cross-infection. After all, our medical resources are limited, and viruses are unlimited. We need to focus our limited medical resources on the process of developing vaccines, not waste them on useless medical treatment. Our president and the state council are trying to lead everyone through these difficult times. We, the people, should put ourselves more in others' position. If the general public can understand the difficulties of the government and can achieve these 3 points, I don't think the epidemic will break out in the United States, in our country. There are 2 important factors here. First, living space for self-quarantine. The concentration of public housing in most states of the United States is not high. So this definitely avoids cross-infection in the enclosed space of the same building elevator. Second, private vehicles. People, we do not rely heavily on public transportation. This also avoids cross-infection in confined space during travel. To sum up, the 2 factors of living space for self-quarantine and private vehicles have fundamentally determined the conditions to cut off the spread of the virus. United States is an agricultural country. As long as the public can effectively isolate themselves and wear masks, there is no need to worry about supplies as long as the government guarantees the living supplies. It is undoubtedly necessary to fight the epidemic. We must take a positive attitude to the problems that have occurred and try to solve them as much as possible. We must not be blindly pessimistic nor blindly optimistic, and always retain a rational perspective towards this event. These are what I want to express. We must work with the government to win in this epidemic. It is also clear that the government is run by human beings who cannot solve unprecedented crises and issues like this. We cannot shrink things to the government when we are in trouble. We cannot just blame the government and do nothing to ourselves. We should also think about our responsibilities as public servants and do our best. Under the leadership of the government, millions of people work together to help this country, help our planet. We fight together. And we, the people, certainly will win this battle together.